Welcome to Real Talk with Pam, the show where authenticity meets conversations and where lived experiences become shared and learning experiences. I'm your host, Pamela Igbo, and on this episode, we are taking a deep dive into the journey of single motherhood. Today, I'll be joined by two wonderful women who will share their experiences of navigating life as a single mom. My first guest is Daba Omoregbe, a seasoned IT professional turned entrepreneur with a distinguished career spanning over 2 decades. She founded Zest for Life, which produces the popular Zesty range of healthy drinks and has since become a respected figure in Nigeria's business community. She is also the proud mother of a 27-year-old daughter. We also have with us Bimbo Fishayo, a renowned entrepreneur, educator, and leader. Bimbo has spent over 30 years shaping minds and helping build institutions. A mother of 4 and grandmother of 8, she is the founder of CTC International School, focused on values and academic excellence, which was a huge success for 25 years. Together, we will talk about the challenges and triumphs of navigating life as a single mom, and we'll explore the realities of raising children on your own as a woman. Let's get started. Daba and Bimbo, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. I'm so excited about the conversation we're going to have.
I'm looking forward to it.
Same here. Thank you.
Fantastic. I know for me, I became a single mom through divorce, and my daughter was 18 months when I became a single mom. And that was a huge change for me, having literally a very young child. And I had to literally pivot, think about my career, think about the finances, and what I was going to do next with my life. And it can be a very challenging time because you're having to navigate, not just for me, a divorce, but navigate how am I going to bring up my daughter, the support system. So there are just many, many things to consider. For you, Daba, how was it? What's your story of being a single mother?
So I became single through divorce like you, and my daughter was just 18 months old like you.
Right.
And it was something I needed to do at the time. And it wasn't easy having that decision because of course, my daughter, she was a baby. And for me, I was already a working mom before my daughter, so I was already working seriously. So one of the things, like the huge change for me was I used to like to go out a lot.
Right.
And the huge change is that, okay, now I'm be able to be going out now because I have this little one that had to, who's looking at me. So it wasn't something that I was like, it was really sad that I had to, start looking after this on my own.
Right.
So, because I had to think of so many things. I had to think of my finances, had to think about childcare. I was in the UK at the time, and childcare wasn't easy. It was an expensive
Yes.
Thing to carry on. And then you now have just one salary, one income coming in. So you had to even think about cheaper ways to have your childcare. So I used to go around looking for my friends' mothers or who were not, finally I actually found one of my friends from church who agreed to take care of my daughter whilst I was at work.
Right.
So, it was like, for me, it was just life-changing that, okay, now, Daba, you're now on your own, so
Yes.
let's navigate the world together.
Right.
But there's a point in my time where it was so difficult for me. But my friend came to stay with me, and she saw me with my daughter, and she now said, you know what, you need to take this child to your mother because it was as if we were about to have a breakdown. So she actually took my daughter away, and my daughter was in Nigeria for a few years.
Oh, wow.
And came back when she was maybe about 4.
Bimbo, how about you? What's your story?
Yes, mine happened through divorce as well.
Right.
At that point, I had 4 children under the age of 10.
Wow.
Yes, so it was a huge blow. But I made up my mind that I was gonna face it, and It was very difficult to handle rent, school fees, school runs, food, security at home, everything. But my mom got a young lady for me from her hometown at that time, and the young girl proved to be very, very helpful. After I taught her all the things that I wanted her to know, I could pretty much leave the kids with her and go to work and feel
Right.
safe.
Right.
Um, she knew which hospital to go to if anything happened. You know, in those days there were no phones.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm talking about 90s, very early 90s. There were no phones. So it was difficult to keep track. We lived in Ikeja. I worked in Victoria Island. So it was nerve-wracking, but you know, somehow we got through. Still had to come back from work around 9:30 and do homework
Wow.
and look through homework. I had to look at their homework every night. And if I had to have a teacher parent conference, then I wouldn't go to work early. I would wait back in Ikeja because their school was in Ikeja, obviously. So I would wait back, see the school authorities or the teachers before crossing the bridge to Victoria Island. So it was very challenging, but I would say that God brought us through.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you
Very
just have to
challenging.
get on with it, I suppose.
You have
have to
to.
get on with it. You don't even think about it, you know. Particularly you having children four. I can't even begin to imagine that. So hats off to you
And
for
actually, I actually had five because I had a nephew.
Oh, who was there?
Yeah, I raised him.
that. Right.
So I raised all of them together. So there were really five of them, four biological and one adopted.
Wow. Wow. And so I just want to talk a little bit more about financially how difficult it can be. I know for me, you know, I was speaking to Daba earlier, and I used to work in the city because I lived in the UK at the time, and I on a good job, with good salary, but because of the challenges of not wanting to leave my daughter alone with and childcare was expensive because I had to do the math one day and say, yes, I'm earning a good salary, but by the time I pay rent, I pay petrol for the car, pay for the tube to get to work, pay the child carer. Literally, I had nothing left at the end of the month, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't. This is not even sustainable. And I had to sort of make a decision to give up my job in the city and go on benefits for a while so that it would make financial sense for me to take care of my daughter. So, and I know that many women have to make this call financially because it's a one income family, and even till today, yeah, my daughter's 18, but it's predominantly still a one income family. So I wondered how it was for you. I know you touched upon it briefly.
For me, that's when my Niger brain kicked in. Because I was living in the UK, I now decided that okay, I cannot be doing all this sectorial work. I used to do a lot of admin, and I decided to go into information technology. That time, there was a lot of money in information technology, so I just got all the training and I started working in the city. But at that same time, there was my mom who was in Nigeria. And at the time, my mom had retired. She wasn't doing much in Nigeria. So, and then the UK was saying that if you had a parent who was over 65, you can apply for them to stay. And so I brought my mom over to the UK to help me with my daughter. I felt comfortable
Right.
to be able to do that. That would give me because I wanted so much. I wanted to put Annabelle, give her all the things like lessons, going to good schools, be able to pay for childcare if necessary, dance classes, all those things.
Yeah.
So with my mom being here, I'll be able to do those things. And my mom had the same values as me and will instill more. So I was comfortable leaving her with my mom, and then I'll be able to work. But what I did, I made the decision to work evenings instead of, from 9 to 5. So I will go to work from 5 and then come back about 12. So that will give me, I'll be able to take my daughter to school, and then do all the parent teachers, all those things. I'll be able to do it, and then I can go to work. So it was just easier for me, and I did make loads of money doing that. So it was easy for me to budget and do all the things I needed to do. I would say that my mom actually helped me to achieve all of that. So I could go out, if I had to do overtime, I was able to do all of that. So I was then, when my mom left, just the time my mom would go, I could get like au pairs to come live in and all of that stuff. So yeah, so it's good.
Yes, for me, it was very, very difficult because it happened somewhat suddenly. I wasn't financially ready. So actually had to sit the kids down to a meeting. Yeah, I sat them down to a meeting and told them that things are going to change around here.
Wow.
But I assured them that it won't be for long because I was going to work things out. But that diet would change,
Right.
um, going out would change, but I said your school fees will always be paid. That's the assurance I can give you. Everything else will change. And the job I had when it happened was not paying much. So what I did was just to sell off some of the stuff we brought from the US.
Wow.
Yeah. TVs, freezers. I would sit them down and say, I'm going to have to sell this TV. I'm sorry, because I have to pay your school fees. And they would say, okay. And so we did that for a while, sold off a lot of stuff while I was looking for a better job. So when I got a better job, so they were growing as well. And some of them were now getting to secondary school. School fees was becoming more expensive. And I actually insisted on them going to private schools.
Right.
Because my thinking at that time and now, and I'm glad it paid off, was that the only thing you can actually give your children is the best education.
Exactly.
Forget about building houses, whatever else. Once you give them a good education and you build their character, you build them up character-wise, morally, etc., you can let them fly.
Yes.
They'll fly well without crashing. So a lot of people advised me to go and dump them with their grandfather. That's my ex-husband's dad. They said, oh, why are you going to carry all this load? Go and leave them with their grandfather and move on. Marry somebody else. Do something else with your life. You're pretty. You're this, you're that. I said, no, I'm going to stick with them. And some people advised me, gave me the advice, send them to a public school. If you're not getting help from anywhere, why are you going to? So I said no. So I did that for a while, the selling off of assets, and then got a better job. As they got into secondary school and the bills became higher, I had a better job and then decided to go into trading on the weekends. So I traded in different things. People brought things in, imported things. I helped them to market and made my commission. It really helped, And it helped that we cut a lot of things out. There was no longer Kellogg's cornflakes. There wasn't oatmeal. We went down to the brass tacks, Ogi. We went out to pap. And just a funny anecdotal story. Apparently, when I was giving them the pap, and I had a meeting with them before we went down to pap. I said, there's no more conflicts. It's going to be pap, but it's still hot and it's nourishing. My third child, a girl, so after they sit at table, and she will always have an accident. Oh, mommy, my food is on the floor. Why is your food on the floor every time? When she grew up, She told me, she said, "Mommy, all that time that my food, I didn't want to eat it. I threw it away." I just told you I had an accident. But, and I told them, we could only eat rice once a week. And then we had swallow, alternative day. We had amala today, but tomorrow amala today. And it was so bad that sometimes I couldn't even buy meat.
Wow.
I couldn't even provide protein. I had to put crayfish in okra and whatnot. But you know something? Because I carried them along, they walked with me. They were with me.
Yes.
So they were not weeping for this or weeping for that. And I told them the only way we are all going to get out of this is for you guys to do well in school. You do well in school, we're going to get out of it quickly.
Right.
But if you laze about, it's going to be a long time. So they all sat up and did what needed to be done. So I didn't have any issues with schoolwork or bad behavior in school or whatever. That side was taken care of because they knew that, for the next school fees to be paid, maybe something is going to be sold.
Right.
So, but it worked out for us. And, I will always say God was with us. And then I had that girl who held the fort while I was at work. Yeah, so financially, that's how it went down until they started going to university, and because they were US citizens, they were able to go, and then we relied on Pell grants and all kinds of things, all those things.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's such an amazing story, because as you were talking, I remember when my daughter was about 11 or 10, she started to apply for 11 plus in England when you go to secondary school. And I remember sitting her down because she also went to private schools.
Okay.
And I remember sitting her down and saying, look, and we were on a bursary because it came to a point where her fees weren't being paid anymore. And I had to apply for a bursary for her because I couldn't afford it. And these schools were like £30,000 a year schools, £40,000. And I remember sitting her down and I said, look, I need you. She was always a good kid in terms of her academics, but I needed her to understand that we would need to get a bursary or scholarship 100% because I could not afford to pay for those. And I said, you see all these your friends, their fathers are millionaires and some of them were billionaires, and they're trust fund kids who were not like that. I'm just managing myself. So please, you need to buckle down and do what you need to do. And she's, like you said, I carried her along. She's a good kid. And in fact, she got like 4 different schools that gave her full ride.
Fantastic.
So we had our pick and God was with us. So, I mean, as you were talking, I got quite emotional thinking of all the times, that we lacked, but we would, God was with us. And people, you would walk out the house, hold your head up high, like, you got $1 million in the bank, but really, people didn't know what you were going through.
Exactly.
So I salute you for keeping going at that point. I want to talk a little bit about discipline. Because, in a single parent home, it's just you. And particularly you, Bimbo, with 4 kids, how were you able to get that balance in terms of being the good cop and the bad cop, because it was just you with 4 kids.
Yeah, it was quite difficult. But when, like I said, I always held meetings with them. So we call them meetings. But these were times where we would sit around the table and talk. And talk about different things. And I use the Bible a lot. Okay, I use the Bible a lot. With my son, I'm going to use him as an example. I think he was 7 one day. He asked me for something and I said no. And then he said, Mommy, but remember that I'm your only son. I said, really? You are thinking that way? I took the cane. I didn't spare the rod. I beat the living dead. He went under the table. I dragged him out. I said, don't ever even think, don't dream of it. Don't think, who told you I can't have another son? So at that point, I said, a 7-year-old is going to use this as emotional blackmail for me. If I gave in at that point, that was it.
Right.
It was over. So I dealt with him then, and it never happened again. So if I said no, it was no. And I think from that point, the sister saw what happened
Right.
And they just said, well, So discipline is something that a single mom should not compromise.
Right.
Because once you lose that battle, you've lost it for life.
That's it.
You're never going to win it anymore. So you apply tough love. Because when you punish them or when you withhold certain privileges because you need them to learn a lesson, you are actually loving them.
That's right.
You are loving them. When you let them have their way with everything, you are destroying them and destroying yourself.
Yeah.
Because all of you will drink that concoction when it matures. So there are certain times that I have disciplined my children and they don't know this, but if they see this podcast, they'll know, and gone back into my room and wept. One time, my daughter was not doing homework. This was secondary school time, maybe JS3-ish. And she said to me, oh, my uncle said I don't have to learn maths to do law and I want to do law. I said, you have to pass everything. So she was being belligerent. And I said, okay, you know what? Right now, you're going to pack your things and leave. If I cannot direct you, if I cannot tell you what to do, if you are going to be telling me what to do, you need to pack your things and go to your father's house. And I insisted that night. Everybody, my mom was living with me at that time. She begged me. I said, no, she's going to go. Once she cannot take directions from me anymore, she's going to leave. She's not going to live under my roof. So we dragged it out till about 3 a.m. Because the teacher who came to report her stayed until I got back from work. And I got back around 10. Said, I must report it to your mom. So he stayed. So when we started to drag it, and she was insisting that she didn't need math, I said, fine, you're going to leave. So everybody was begging. I said, no. Eventually, around 3 a.m., when she agreed that she would pass math and she would do her work, I said, fine, I'm not going to take your word for it. We're going to sign an agreement. So I wrote the agreement in 3 copies. That she's going to continue to stay with me because she has agreed to pass all subjects with at least a credit, including mathematics. And that if she did that at GCE and she did not pass mathematics, even if she passed everything else, then I am authorized to hands off her education and her life.
Right.
So we wrote the agreement in 3. I wrote the agreement in 3 copies because it was midnight. There was no way to do a photocopy. So we wrote it 3 times. I signed one. The teacher who waited to report her signed one, and she signed one. So my driver witnessed my signature. So yeah, it was serious. It was serious because I said, go back to your father's house. So your father is remarried. I said, you are living here, you have your own room, you're sleeping, you're doing, and it's difficult for you. Go back to your father's house, and when his wife taunts you, I said, well, you're going to be, her, go and do this, go and do that for me. That's going to, maybe that would be easier for you than just sitting down and studying and getting your maths paper passed.
Right.
So at 3 a.m. when she agreed that she would pass, we signed the agreement. So the teacher slept on my couch. I went into my bedroom and wept till 6:30 when I had to get up and go to work. She went to bed. So we've had such moments.
Right. Yeah.
So discipline is key. You cannot play with it.
That's it.
Then when she was at uni, I don't know if she's going to like if I say this, but I'll say it. She was dating someone who was not good for her. So this was in the US, and I was living in Nigeria. And I heard about this, and I went back there, brought her back for the summer. And I said, if you ever talk to that boy again, call him on the phone now and tell him you don't ever want him to call you again. And I spoke to the guy. I said, listen, this is so and so's mom, and you are so and so. I have heard of you. If you ever come around a 50-yard radius of my daughter, I will accuse you, whether falsely or not, of statutory rape. And I will have you jailed. This is America. I know what to do. Don't ever come near her 50 yards. She doesn't need to date you. And I brought my daughter back home. And as soon as we got to Nigeria, I took her US passport and her Nigerian passport. I said, listen, if you want to go back to that school, we're going to sign another agreement. Yes. You can't see that boy. And it worked. So at the end of the day, she went back because she knew I could do it. I could make sure she didn't go back to that school. And the others will be there, she will be here. So sometimes you make very tough decisions, take drastic steps to make sure that they stay on the straight and narrow.
I agree. Because
if not, she said, I love him. I said, what do you know about love? You don't even know the meaning. Love, you don't even know the meaning of love. That 4-letter word, you don't know the meaning. You think you know. You don't. So, but to the glory of God, they all got married very well. They've had their kids and all of that. And nobody came home with any accidents, if you get my drift.
Right.
So I give God the glory for everything. It wasn't easy, believe me.
Yeah.
There are many times I cried myself to sleep all night, but they never knew.
Yeah.
They never knew.
Yeah.
I kept it away from them. When I'm with them, I'm strong.
Sure.
You understand?
Yeah.
When I want to be mushy, I just enter my room, lock the door, and I will weep and weep and weep and weep. But when I come out in the morning, I'm ready. Yes. That was how it was. So it was difficult, but it was done.
Yes, I understand.
But then again, let me say this. To be able to speak to your kids and give them that discipline, you first of all have to be disciplined.
Sure.
You must have self-control. There were many things I couldn't do. I couldn't date or bring people home. No, I couldn't because I was raising 3 girls. So I wasn't going to have the, because dating when you're a single mom, it's tricky.
Yes,
so if you have a guy today, 6 months, and you bring them in, your kids see the guy and all that, 6 months, 9 months, you are no longer interested in a relationship. That one goes away. It's in their memory. Then you are dating somebody else. Then they see this person again. It's one kind now.
Right.
You understand? So while they were home, I just said to myself, as long as they are home, that's not going to happen. When they all leave to go to university, fine. Because at that time, again, they are older. Understand? And they are not home with me knowing every little bit about my dating life. So I just stayed. So it was a lonely life, to be honest with you. It was a very, very lonely life, but it was what I needed to do. And some people gave me advice, get married again. And a lot of guys came my way. Hey, for my son, I also did not want a situation where I would marry and he would have confrontations with the man because that's not my father. I'm not going to. So I decided that I wasn't going to marry while they were growing up. So that also made for a lonely life. Right. But it was part of the sacrifice I thought I had to make to stabilize their own lives and give them the best that I could. So I was saying that for you to discipline your children, you also have to be self-disciplined. There are certain things you cannot do.
Right.
Because they learn from watching you, not just from what you say.
That's right.
They learn from what you do. So I also had to be on the straight and narrow. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
What about you, Deba, in terms of discipline? How did you find that?
In my mind, I always used to say, single parent, in my mind, I'll say, nothing from my hand, my picking go spoil.
That's a good one.
So I always, I was always good cop, bad cop. I was quite strict. I used to give us, some slaps here, spanks here and there. Um, and then I also had my mom. So she helped me with the discipline as well. Um, so, we also ensure that, she's always like, she TV times were TV times. If she did something that we didn't like and she shouldn't have done, we'll always say, we have this in the UK now. There's so much the way you discipline the child, because when you go to school now, if you see one mark in the hand, they will come back and ask, who did this. So you have to be very careful. So we have times where suspension. You will not no TV for a whole month. You just stay in your room, read your book or whatever. And it was just, and then I also had friends who were disciplinarians as well. So if I found it like really challenging trying to discipline her, because also my daughter was quite headstrong as well, and it used to be a battle. It was a battle. And so I had this friend who was a social worker who lived close by. She would come and do her own discipline, and it was really challenging with my daughter. She also had issues in school,
Right.
and that was another battle. When she was 11, I decided to send her to Nigeria from the UK. I did. We just came to Nigeria. She didn't even know. And she said, "Are you sure, am I going back?" I said, "No, you're not going back." And I sent her to secondary school here, and she was here for 6 years. And you know what? That was a life-changing moment for me and for her. In Nigeria, there's a different kind of discipline.
Of course. Yes, definitely.
When even in the schools. So one day she called me. I remember this incident. She was in boarding school. So and I didn't send that to her. On last shore, it's so deep inside Ilesha. That's where I put her. She called me. I remember her calling me, "Oh, mommy, I did not pay in the boy hostel." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because I didn't come out on time." I said, "Stay there. They will when they finish what they're doing. Why did you leave on time?" Yeah. I said, "This is, so I was," and I could see after, she had started changing, she was calmer. And it was just easy. After, when she used to come to the UK for and stay for 3 months before she got out, it now sort of like eased off. But I can say, for me, discipline I hope she's hearing this, was such challenging with my daughter that but I did my best, and with family and friends around, that really helped. So
Yes, no, I can totally relate to both of you, because for me, obviously, I have one child like Daba, and discipline, she was very headstrong, still is very headstrong. She's 18. But I think, like you said, being in the UK, it's a bit different, because if they see that there's a mark on the child, they'll call the social services, and the kids themselves know that. They will tell you. I remember my daughter used to say, "I'll call the social service." I said, "Please go ahead, call. You think you're going to be
my
in this?"
daughter actually called the police.
Are you serious? I'm like, "You think you're going to be in this cushy life that you're living now? They will put you in a foster home and you will know yourself."
Exactly.
I used to tell her that, and I used to always say, I said, here they spank. I said, Nigeria we beat. There's a difference. But obviously, as on a more serious note, growing, getting to know my daughter, I've also understood that not all the ways that we discipline children in Nigeria is the best way. Yes, it does say spare the rod and spoil the child, but I think that one thing I've realized, having a child that grew up in England, is to listen more. And I always used to say to my daughter, I said, growing up, our parents just didn't what was listening. When I was going to secondary school, my mom said, if a boy touches you, you will get pregnant. Just
Yes.
touch you like this. So
Yes,
you
I
better
remember
mind
Exactly.
me
yourself,
that.
And every time I was tempted to be deviant, I would see my mother's face. I would just see her face, and that would put me back up the straight and narrow. But I do appreciate discipline because, like you, I brought my daughter back at 14. I did not like the way the West was going in terms of the woke culture that they were imbibing in our kids. And like you, I said to her, we're going for holiday. We're going for holiday for 3 weeks. I got back. I said, you're not going back. And that was 3.5 years ago. Best decision I ever made. Best decision because it helped her to really understand her culture, and it has helped her to really understand respect, and that you come from somewhere. You can't imbibe somebody else's culture, and this is our culture. And now she's proudly Nigerian to the fact that to the extent that she's like, Mom, yeah, I'm gonna go abroad for my university, but I'm coming straight back.
Wow.
This is where I want to live,
Fantastic.
and I don't regret that at all. And as single moms, hats off to you because I know it's not easy disciplining a child on your own. And with that said, we are going to take a quick break right now. We'll be back shortly to continue this amazing conversation with Daba and Bimbo. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Real Talk with Pam. I've been talking to Daba and Bimbo about navigating life as a single mom. We've been having an interesting conversation of the triumphs and challenges of being a single mother. So let's continue our conversation, this amazing conversation. Tell me, Bimbo, especially you, that you lived here most of your life. Is there a stigma you think, when it comes to being a single mom, and did you ever experience it, particularly in Nigeria?
Most definitely. There was. Two ways. The stigma came in two ways. The first way is that once you get divorced, your married friends ostracize you.
Right.
I think they believe that you are now a threat to their own marriages. So you are no longer invited to events. They claim they forgot that you exist. You just find out later that, oh, they celebrated this or they had this party, but you were not invited.
Wow.
Yes, so I got that. I got a lot of that. So you are isolated, as it were, which increases your loneliness. The second way that this stigmatization came was that even family members did not want you to visit. Yes, because in their own thinking, you were going to come with your problems for school fees, for rent, for whatever. One particular occasion that I remember, this uncle of theirs, well, you say, let me call grand uncle. So it's not one of my ex-husband's brothers, so one of the older people. One thing I did not want my children to experience was isolation from their family members. So I would still take them to their father's people, just visit. On this particular day, we got to this particular big uncle's house, and the maid met us at the door and said, Daddy, the daddy said I should tell you that he's sleeping.
Right.
I got that. So the daddy that is sleeping could talk and
right.
say, so I got it. He didn't want to see us. And I never went back there with those kids. Never. Until they were about to go to university.
Right.
Then I went to see him and say, well, the kids are going to university. They are going to the US. I've just come to let you know so people will not say I've kidnapped the children. Oh, are they ready to go to university? Blah, blah. So they don't want you coming with your stories. They don't want your rent issues. They don't want any kind of, a child is sick in the hospital, you need money to pay. They don't want to hear it. So they make sure that they pull back from you. And when I got the message, I also pulled back because That is self-respect as far as I'm concerned. If you don't want to see me, I don't want to see you. We don't fight. Everybody did their day. So that's the way that I experienced the stigmatization.
Wow.
And then when they saw that the kids were up and doing and going to university, everybody wanted to be my friend again. But that's life, though.
That is life.
That's a story for another day.
Sure. But that must have been quite challenging and hard.
It was very hard. So, we were pretty much alone. Just me and the kids. It was very, very difficult.
Wow.
But, you roll with the punches.
Absolutely.
True.
Absolutely.
True.
Life throws you lemons, you make lemonade, as I say. What about you, Deborah?
I didn't really get feel isolated or stigma. I mean, all my adult years were in the UK, so
right.
it's single parent was a single parent.
Exactly.
And it doesn't change who you are. If I had to go out on dates, I would actually talk about my child. That's the first thing I would say, and just put it out there. That so I didn't really experience any form of stigma. Of course, in a society where they welcome single parenthood, you have single mothers all over the place.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a big deal, and I didn't experience any kind of what do you call it now? Stigmatized for being a single mom.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I think similar. I grew up most of my adult years, in fact, all my adult years were in the UK, so I didn't experience it. But what I did experience was loneliness. You talked about, being a threat to your married friends. I didn't experience that as such, but I experienced being lonely even amongst having married friends, when I would go to the parties. I just felt like I was the only person, the one that stuck out on her own. It didn't, at some point I got used to it, but, I didn't want to always go out because of that. You know what I mean? So in that sense, that was what I experienced. But as time went on and I got used to being on my own and, just life continued, I became more confident about being on my own to the extent now that I'm thinking, well, I don't know if, getting married is something I'd have to think about really deeply again if I want to go that route. But yeah, so thank you for sharing about the stigmatization, because even doing this show, I was amazed about so many women I reached out to that did not want to come on the show because they didn't want to talk about being a single mother. And I was like, really? I didn't realize that there was still that stigmatization within the Nigerian community, but I can understand. What about support system? That's a big one. You talked about the girl who was able to help you. What kind of support system has helped you as a single mother, even beyond your mom coming? And were you intentional about creating those support systems?
So, like, as I brought up my child in the UK. So, so you have, apart from my mom, I had of course, I didn't have like immediate family around, but I did have good friends, and so I was intentional on what area I lived.
Yeah.
I remember I decided that I wanted to buy another house. This is just and I was going to go I was thinking of going somewhere in Essex, which is miles and miles away from London, and we were going to have to change schools, but I was just about to complete on the house. I started thinking, if I'm in Essex, if I don't have anyone around me who can help me with my daughter, in case maybe if something happens, I'm at work, I can easily call someone to say, please, can you help me go and pick her up because we're close by. I just withdrew, and I decided to stay where, close to where my friends were. I had really good friends who I could rely on, and where I could drop off my daughter weekends, and they could pick up. So I was really intentional where I lived, close to where my friends were. So and that really, 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 really helped me in helping with my daughter and also with me, because also I was someone who liked to have fun. And so if I had my friends, if I said I wanted to go out, I'll go and meet my friend, and my friend would say, "Oh, bring say bring your daughter over. I can keep her there, and I go out, come back." So I was just intentional where I lived, in ensuring that I'm just close to where I have good friends who would always accommodate me and my exes, and then my daughter as well. So yeah.
How about you, Ms.
There wasn't really that much support. As I said, I had the girl who helped me at home. That was really it. Financial support, zero. It was my load to carry. And so that I really can't say that I had any fantastic support system like that.
Well, you're a strong woman.
You're
You
strong.
got through it.
God
Very
was
strong
there.
woman. And your kids are what? How old are they
They're in
now?
their 40s now.
Wow.
Wow.
All of them.
And
Yeah.
are they here or they're
No,
abroad?
they're abroad. They're in the
wow.
US. They're all
Amazing.
married.
Amazing.
Children. Yeah.
Amazing.
You must have had them quite young.
Not really. I didn't get married until I finished my master's. So I was 20. So now you're going to make me tell you my age. I'm almost 70.
Wow.
No, I'm not kidding.
You don't
They
look
don't
it
look
at
it.
all.
Really, thank you.
Amazing.
I am.
Amazing.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. Great. So I
Good
think
skin.
Sorry?
Your
good skin.
Thank you.
Amazing. Yes. So I think for me with the support, I lived in a part of London called Edgware, North London, and I had a lot of support. So we would share school runs, so that helped. But when she transitioned into secondary school, and we had to move to West London, all that support went. So I felt it, and then that was also during the COVID time. So that made it even lonelier. So moving back to Nigeria was definitely the best thing that happened, because in Nigeria you have so much, you can have so much support. And being with my mom and friends around us, it's just been a wonderful support unit for her, especially being an only child. So just to round up our beautiful conversation, I'd like you guys to talk to other single moms who are going through challenges and the ebbs and flows of being on their own, bringing up kids on their own. What advice would you give them in terms of just keep on keeping on and being resilient? And I'd like you to look at the camera and say what you want to say.
I would say be very intentional about their education and building their character. As I said in the beginning, letting them have the fear of God, whatever your religion is, whether you're a Christian, Muslim, whatever. I had to do that. I had to make sure that they were close to God. Just raise them the right way and give them the best education that you can afford. But stretch yourself to make sure you give them the best education, because that's the only thing that will pay you big dividends later on in life. And when you raise them right, like the Bible said, you will have peace in your old age. I think I'm a testimony to that. I thank God for the way my kids turned out. Like I said, I'm about 70 now. I don't have any issues. They just call, hello, mommy, grandma, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. They call me Susie Grandma. Oh, Susie Grandmother. So, we just have fun. So that, thank God there aren't issues, because of the way, the kind of background that they had. So that's really important. When you raise them right, you're really doing yourself a favor. You're
That's
doing
it.
yourself a favor. So think about it that way. And don't worry about the pain. Because there will be pain. No pain, no gain. There will
That's
be
it.
pain. There's the pain of loneliness, the pain of not having beautiful clothes, the pain of not going to parties, different kinds of pain. But know that it will pay big dividends. It will pay you big time. That would be, and stay close to God.
Thank you for that. How about yourself, Dava?
So for me, the advice I want to give any single parent is to love yourself. Think about yourself first, because if you don't take care of yourself, you don't have any space to give it to your child. Someone once asked me, "Oh, you must love your child more than," I said, "No, no, no, no. I love me more than my child." You know why? It's because if I don't take care of me, there's nothing for me to give my child. And also think, always put God first. I always say that God is a rewarder of single parents. He would always bless you. He will always guide you. He will always give you wisdom. So everything that you want life to give you with your children, always go to him first. He will always give you the answer. And also think about your finances. Make sure you're able to strategize your budgeting. Don't think, okay, yes, you have money, or try and save, to help with the upkeep of your kids, or your kid. And also remember to have fun. It's not really about everything about your child. You also remember to have fun for yourself, have good friends, and just be you.
Be you. I love that. I love that. Thank you, ladies. It's been an absolute great time with Bimbo and Daba. And I want to just leave you with being authentic. The whole idea of starting this show was to have conversations like this. So, as a single mom, I would say be open, be vulnerable. If you are going through a hard time, look for people that share the same values with you that you can talk to, and know that you are not alone. I'd like to thank Daba and Bimbo for sharing their insightful experiences as single mothers on Real Talk with Pam. Their candor and resilience will give hope and courage to women navigating similar challenges. To all the single mothers tuning in, we salute your unwavering dedication and perseverance. Real Talk with Pam remains committed to fostering authentic conversations that inspire and empower. Till next time, stay authentic. Bye for now.